My name is Emilio Rodriguez, and right now I live in Detroit, but I am an Army brat, so I've grown up all over Germany, Hawaii, California, Georgia, and Texas. I am a playwright, and I usually infuse poetry in my work, and typically I work with a lot of characters who have common experiences of LGBT people of color. It's sort of who I write for, and within that there tends to be a lot of issues with family and identity and self-acceptance, and I tend to lean towards hopefulness, because I think a lot of LGBT people of color feel that in this world we don't have a lot of hope, and so I like to sort of leave a message of hope in every piece I do. This is 75, but last night I was going back on it, so it's 95 pages now, and that's since I came to Jurassic 3 weeks ago. You listen patiently as I spin Nina Simone records on repeat, casting spells with my cauldron because you're mine. You carve my body with your lips, our skin naked like peeled fruit. Tiny arias escape my teeth. These breathy vowels dance on the ceiling to a smoky tempo. You make me feel like I'm riding a motorcycle on a path straight to the sky. I love you, I love you, I love you anyhow. You leave your armor on the floor. Red shirt, yellow tie, black hat. Danger. I fall asleep to the rhythm of your exhales. In, out, in, out, in. This is the loudest lullaby I have ever heard. My dreams are filled with tinkling piano keys and a gravelly voice yelling, I don't care if you don't want me, I'm yours right now. I wonder if you heard it. When I wake up, I use the empty space you once filled to stretch my arms wide like angel wings, capturing dreams I once had. Now I know why Shaka Khan needed so many notes to plead her man to stay. That's life. Your fragrance still sits on my pillow as I breathe in, out, in, out, in. I wonder if you heard me. I just want to say a thank you to Jurassic for all the work that it's enabled me to do, and for taking a risk on an emerging artist like me.
My name is Yalitza Ferreras, and I'm from Dominican Republic and was born in New York and now live in San Francisco. I write about survival and displacement. I write a lot about immigrants. I write a lot about how people try to survive with grace. Being an artist is the most certain thing in the world, because when I'm writing, or even just when I'm thinking about writing, I know that it's what I'm supposed to be doing. It's the one thing in my life that I'm like 100% sure about. You know, there's no guarantees in life, but I know that my art is who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing. I recently saw a video of penguins. It's kind of like, I'll explain. There was like a bunch of penguins, about 100 of them, and someone had put down a rope, and it was about an inch off the ground, right? But you know, penguins have those tiny cute little legs, and it's hard for them to get over that rope. So there was all these penguins facing this rope, and they were all kind of like staring at it, and then eventually some of them would make a run for it and try to get over the rope, and they would fall, and it was like ridiculous and adorable, which is not like the writing process, but that's kind of like what my writing process is. It's sort of awkward and hard, and sometimes I'm just like staring at the page, and sometimes I run and I go towards it, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So it's awkward and not so graceful, but sometimes it works. But I try to show up every day, and I keep trying, and that's what my process is like.
I'm Gloria Bond Clunie, and I live in the Chicagoland area in Evanston, and I got there by way of North Carolina. The stories about a family who lives, under the stars, and how they are guided by that idea of the North Star. In African American culture, the North Star is the thing that takes you north, that leads you to freedom.
It's huge skies with millions and millions of stars,
Brilliant stars and black night skies that made you look up in wonder, held you in reverence, made you accountable for taking up space under their brightness. Oh, to turn off city lights and to see those skies again. So looking out here was like fantastic because I've been in Chicago years and years and years now, and that's something that I miss. And even with Sky, the piece that I'm working on now, the idea of being able to look out my window and see sky, just and more sky, and thinking how it's impacting a story about Chicago with the tall buildings, which I love. I fell in love with it, you know, coming from North Carolina, and then suddenly seeing tall buildings and saying, wow. But having the perspective of seeing those images of skyscrapers and then seeing them in contrast with God's skyscrapers and asking, you know, why do we really build when we have things like this? So it's changed a perspective on how I see the work, just being in the environment. And so I took tinfoil from the kitchen. And the day before, Jonathan and I went on a midnight hike and we saw shooting stars. And like, you know, I haven't seen Chicago. You have so much light, you barely see stars. So in 2 seconds, I designed a shooting star. So this was on my head, and this was a shooting star that I wear as a crown.
Hey, I'm Mari Lesperance. I'm a poet and a writer, and I live in the Los Angeles area currently. I was born in Kobe, Japan, and was raised in Southern California, Guam, and Japan. Someone said years ago, and I'm sure it's been said by others, that all our lives we're writing the same poem over and over, just in different forms. But I guess my general themes are transgenerational trauma, loss, liminality, deintegration and reintegration. And I think a lot of what I'm attempting to do, maybe not entirely consciously, is reconcile my own cultural duality. I'm mixed Japanese and European American. Liminality simply means betwixt and between. It's, I would say this residency is a liminal space. It's not the real world. It's not a place where we're going to stay permanently. It's an in-between space, which gives it its power and a lot of creative possibility, both artistically and personally. I think that's one of the great benefits of an artist residency. Grief is deep green. And there's a Japanese word in the poem, robai, which is a type of flower that's related to the plum. It's in the plum family, and it's yellow, and it blooms in Japan in January, February, so it's considered the first flower of the year. Grief is deep green. In the season of robai, nothing answers. New leaves sprout along the sapling's wet branches, tiny wings of hope. 2 spades make a hole for planting. We bury the roots with a poem folded twice and ladle water over tamped earth. The garden fills with rain and distances. Perhaps this is how it ends, little ceremony, a lost mother permitted to return home. Grief is deep green and carries a sharp scent. Memory and rain are like nothing that keeps. She disappeared in the season of robai. Crows drift above the darkened temple, their ragged cries and the falling off after. It is the falling off that I want to hold on to, yet the notes smear and fade, so I reach for something that might choose to stay. The missing are restless. They wander between 2 worlds and belong to neither. In the season of robai, she does not answer. How does it begin and where does it end? What I mean to say is, there is no fathomable point of entry. What I mean to say is, she was of this world and then was not.
My name is Netta Yerushalmy. I York. I've been living in New York for the past 20 years-ish, but I grew up in Israel. I see myself as a sculptor, a calligrapher sometimes, a painter, but I make work with highly technical, skilled bodies that is usually pretty abstract and deals with movement as an absolute thing, but also engages conceptual layers as well. My time at Jurassic, I don't think it's affected my work. I think it's allowed me to work. My life is really hectic. Really, really hectic. I'm running around pretty much all day, and my work takes place in multiple geographical locations throughout the city, or throughout the country, or the world. So I'm moving a lot, navigating a lot of different aspects of my work, which could be more the promotional side, or navigating contracts, or teaching, or working on other companies, or presenting my work, or dealing with presenters. So there's a lot of different aspects to what I do. I'm working on a larger project that's going to kind of develop over the next 2 to 3 years, and it involves deconstructions of paradigmatic dances from the history of choreography. There are multiple installments that each deconstruct a different, very famous, iconic dance, and what I've been doing here is working on Night Journey. It's a very famous piece from 1944 by Martha Graham, and so she's one of the choreographers that I'm looking at, and that particular piece is one of her iconic works, and I've been spending all my time here looking at that work and learning it, and then completely disorganizing it. Really mentally challenging, it's physically challenging, but I feel like having the time to work slowly here hasn't put too much pressure on my body, so I work for very long hours. What is this thing that I do, being an artist, that gives me the sort of right to make sense of a month of freedom and beauty and with beautiful food, and so, you know, I come up against the question of sort of the worth of what we do as artists, and what are the conditions that are necessary for us to do it, and the whole idea of product and process, and those questions and tensions. You know, it's a luxury to be able to contemplate those questions. Have this place say, yes, you deserve this, or yes, this is what you need, we know that this is what you need in order to work. And it's true.
My name is Melissa Wyman, and I'm from the Bay Area, currently living in Palo Alto. Well, first of all, the reason I'm here is part of the Young Artists Fellowship at Jurassic, which was originally an Open IDEO concept that artist Mel Day worked closely with Open IDEO to develop some idea, which was answering a challenge to creating, or how to create creative confidence in young people. And her idea, collaboratively with Open IDEO, was to pair an artist residency with a local artist and then a high school. So I got together with East Side College Preparatory School in East Palo Alto and Gunn High School in Palo Alto to work with the classes there. So we've been working together. So I'm actually sharing this residency with them, and we are co-authoring work together. We took a walk down to the creek and spent time looking at the creek, and on the way back we started to collect all of these different mediums. So as part of the process was to think about what things in nature you could use to paint with and the kind of textures that you could get. And in some of my own work, I've been working with ink and letting it pool in water and seeing which kind of patterns come up. So we came back here, and the idea was that they would paint with something from nature other than a paintbrush. And part of this was on the wall and part of this was on a table. And it was flat on the table so that the water could pool and just create. So the idea was letting go of a certain amount of control. You know, one of the other things about this fellowship is to give the students time and space to create without the pressure. I mean, high school students in this day and age have so much pressure to do something that produces an end result grades, tests, all of that. So we wanted to step away from the end results, and I just wanted to really think about the process of something and being present, enjoying the time. While the students were here, it wasn't just about creating work together, it was about getting the Jurassic experience. So going for a walk, interacting with the sculptures, they got to meet some of the other artists in residence and hear about what they were doing and about their process. And so it was really kind of discovery process and having some time. We had lunch together. It was really an amazing day. The East Palo Alto group from East Side came, and we spent time together, I think 3 times. One of the things I do is bring my own practice, which is called collaborative combative drawing, which is kind of like, or 2-person power drawing, depending on where the focus is. But it's a way to get people physical with their drawing, and also is an idea generator. And so we started with that to come up with some ideas. That develops into a conversation about what inspires us and what we do when we meet obstacles or mental blocks or creativity blocks. And so we started talking about an inspiration pod or a power pod, and came up with some different ideas of what that could look like. And they all had drawings to create their own pod, and some of the pods were small, some were large, some were kind of open to the sky, others were closed. Still figuring out how we might make each hula hoop be an individual experience or even a collective experience. I have a bunch of material scraps, and one of the ideas I had was to use twine and material to kind of decorate each inside, which might be something that we do. Another one might be to paint around the ring and paint the expressions. They've all written down after our day together and after our hike. They wrote down things that, expressions or sayings that they kind of wanted to infuse the pod with. The idea is that we can actually bring the pod to school and have the pod at some place in their school that they can share with classmates.